And that leads right into my next question, which is, what is the strangest thing you found around your house? I think a headless 18th century porcelain statue would be probably one of the strange. I hope that's the strangest. I don't know. Maybe your house has a lot of
Luckily, I
weird stuff.
found the head. I found the headless figurine. I mean, my mum grew up in a vicarage as well, so they didn't. It was a church-owned house. They didn't own it, but somehow they had these figurines in their possession.
Everyone, this is David Stark from Watch Or Pass, and today I'm joined by Ruth Platt, the writer and director of Martyrs Lane, an atmospheric ghost story coming to Shudder on September 9, 2021. We're going to talk to her in just a second, but first, let's check out the trailer, and while you're watching, if you can like and subscribe to this channel, that would be fantastic. It helps me out a lot. Thank you.
God's love is like sunlight. It seeks out every shadow, every place of darkness.
What if you hide? I'm here to help you. Guardian angel. What you took, what you lost, is in the back garden.
Where did you find these?
Everywhere.
How?
She wishes she had died.
All right, we're good to go. Are you ready, Ruth? Can you hear me?
Sure. Hi, David. Hi.
Hello. Perfect. So thanks so much for joining me. This is Ruth Platt, the writer and director of Martyrs Lane, which is coming to Shudder on September 9th, 2021. It's based on a 2019 short film that you did of the same name, and I guess this is an expanded story, or maybe just more fleshed out or longer. But it feels like a very personal story. So I guess, what was the inspiration, for the original short, and then the expanded story as well?
Well, actually, the short kind of came after the feature in a way, because I was in development with the BFI, the British Film Institute. They're a big sort of funder of UK indie film in the UK. And I'd kind of developed the script with them for a couple of years, and then they wanted to see a sort of proof of concept. So they asked for the short. And I think it was trying to prove or establish this tonally where this was placed in the genre, because you have children in the leads, and it's not a children's movie, but it's you've got to be authentic to seeing through a child's eyes as well. Exactly. And tonally where that places it in the whole canon of horror or ghost stories. So it was kind of a proof of concept, the short that we did, and that we learned an awful lot about where this film should go, and we were kind of led by that a little bit. It's got a seed of personal experience in it. It's not autobiographical, but I grew up in a vicarage, and I was my siblings and my parents were older. My parents were older parents, and they'd there had been a bit of a gap before me, and my dad had this parish, so the house was very populated with a lot of people who needed things and stuff, and so I was just overhearing and listening. So that's definitely true. And then other things came through, my love of Gothic literature and my love of ghost stories in cinema, like Del Toro, and so it was lots of layers filtering through.
That is so interesting that you grew up in like a similar housing environment that's in the film. Like, I noticed there's a lot of religious imagery, iconography, and also like the names are also all like pretty much all traditional Bible names. I wasn't sure, is that British or is that religious? Maybe some combination of the two. So.
British and religious. Definitely, yeah.
So that's interesting. And then so I guess the next question, the short was filmed in 2019, and that was kind of a proof of concept. Was this filmed during COVID? Like, it seems like the timeline could match up with when COVID was. So I just wasn't sure how the filming worked out with this.
Yeah. Well, we managed to shoot the main body of the feature at the end of 2019, and then we kind of there was a little bit of a gap before we went into post, and then beginning of March everything went haywire, and it just felt like it was a real getting an indie film made is very, very tough, especially in the UK. There's not that much funding for there's a lot of money around, but not much for UK indie film, and we managed to get it made, and then COVID came along, and it was just couldn't quite believe it. But so it was delayed. The post-production was delayed by COVID, and we managed to do some pickups a little bit later than we hoped, sort of June 2020, with very strict COVID laws, and then the editor basically was editing in his own home, and I wasn't there, and we were having lots of long phone calls about it, and sending notes, on emails. So it was very, very odd, and I felt quite removed from it, and that was very difficult, because I wanted to be in the edit room with him. But maybe it was good for him. I don't know. I think editors maybe like sometimes directors not being there all the time. But we managed to finish it through 2020, but it definitely took longer because of COVID. Thank you, COVID.
And that must have been incredibly difficult, because I can imagine, you have this vision in your head, or at least that you're seeing being created, and then to kind of take, okay, here's all the raw material, go, cut it up and do what you think is right. And obviously he's, the editor is getting your input, but that must have been incredibly difficult. I can't believe you didn't just like drive to their house and just like quarantine yourself so you could just sit there for the next month or 2 months, however long it took to edit the film.
Camp in his garden. Yeah, I kind of wanted to, but he's got a family, I've got a family. I don't think it would have worked out. But, and he was juggling 2 projects as well. He had a big series he was doing because, and he was working this in around that. And so it was hard relinquishing control, but also quite positive in a way, because I did trust him, and it's so great when you have someone you can trust, and it's also good for a new pair of eyes to see it as well and get some distance on it. So it had some good elements, although it was very, very difficult.
a growth experience for you as well.
Well, definitely lots of growth experiences during this.
You mentioned that this is a horror film that kind of stars children, and the subject matter is probably difficult, although I think this film has a more subtle horror iconography and also like a more subtle horror elements to it, so maybe it's not that big. I guess, what was it like working with them, especially when you kind of had to have this child kind of explore loss and explore grief and like a disconnection with their mother? Like how did you approach that as a director? Was it tough, or were they just they're professional actors, even though they're kids, and so they were able to kind of pick it up and do what was asked of them?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, I definitely didn't. Actually, we didn't talk very much about the heavy adult subject matter at all. And, they both have wonderful mums who were with them on set. And, the mums had the scripts and talked it through with them. And I think they read it. But we didn't really talk much about the adult subject matter, because actually they both had so much emotional intelligence and so much sort of just natural presence and spontaneity. And that's what I was looking for. So in the scenes, we really just focused on their relationship, these 2 girls, and their thoughts and intentions at every moment, and to keep that spontaneity and sense of liveliness and energy and play between them, because they're kind of frenemies, and that's all they needed, really, just to stay in the moment, because the story arc really was, I felt, just distracting them and taking them in the wrong direction. It was just too long term. They had to be right in the now, right in the moment. So we just, every scene, we were just like, right, this is what do you want from this moment? What are you thinking in this moment? And just keeping it in the thought. And it was so instinctive and so wonderful. I didn't want sort of professional kid actors, but these, and they have acted for these 2 girls, but they have this lovely sense of naturalness and rawness, and they're not afraid of the camera. They don't change when you start filming, and it was just so lovely to see that.
Yeah, they were very fun to watch, and like you said, especially when they were kind of interacting as kids or frenemies, when they were kind of feeling each other out, but also really enjoying the company. I thought that was a very very natural looking scene, so I'm glad to hear it was also just natural to film as well. I'm also glad to hear that you didn't make them go method, like when they got there you're like, no mom has to go away, you are now
no. And we had fantastic stage mums. They were just great. You're always slightly worried about child actors with the mums, but we had the best mums in the world. They were brilliant.
Awesome. And so I guess, how did you find the rest of your cast? Because the cast was small, which is why I thought maybe this could be a COVID film, because it was a small cast in like an isolated location. But how did you find the rest of them? I loved them all. They all kind of brought different aspects to this story.
Yeah, well, we had a fantastic casting director, Jessie Frost, and it was really about finding this family that felt real, this family that felt like a real family. And then also, they all have such different characters and different personalities. Just finding people who could bring something really interesting to that role. And, that's, I think, what we found. And Denise Gough, she has this incredible, quite visceral presence on screen, and that works so brilliantly for Sarah. And Stephen has this rather gentle quality, which is just what we were looking for Thomas. And Hannah had this brilliant relationship. Hannah, who plays the older sister Bex, has this brilliant natural relationship with Kiera. And just very instinctive actors, and finding that sense of whole. And then, you know, there's extra characters like the parishioners who are all slightly strange in their own way, but you didn't want to overplay that. You know, you've got to have real people, feel they're real people. So we had brilliant actors even for the quite small parts. And so yeah, it was just really enjoyed the casting process and getting that right.
Yeah, no, it definitely felt like a well put together family. It felt like a family that had lived together, but also there was something underneath, which is what you were going for. I also really love the very subtle buildup. You mentioned it before. It's kind of a slow buildup. There isn't a ton of supernatural elements. So is that kind of how the story always was, or were there other cuts where you had maybe more overt supernatural instances happening? I really loved how subtle everything was, because you're kind of like wondering, what's happening now? Like, is it actually a ghost story? Is it something else? So.
Yeah, I mean, it did start off, I think, in its original conception as much more horror. And I think what was interesting is that we sort of stripped some of that away, but kept the deep sense of unease and that atmosphere of edge, where something could go wrong, because psychologically there's some very, very dark material sort of floating around that Leah, the character, doesn't quite have access to, but senses. So we needed to be able to hint at that, and so to know that she wasn't quite safe as adult viewers, without unleashing too much horror, which would kind of make it a little bit inauthentic, I guess, because it's all coming through her own imagination and her own eyes. So it was about stripping away perhaps some of the more overt horror elements, but keeping, really sort of sinking them under into the sort of subtext and the subterranean life of the film, the subconscious life of the film. And that's what we were trying to do through the development and through the visual look as well of the film.
And speaking of the subtle messages and the subconscious elements, one thing I wanted to ask, I don't want to ask specifically about the ending, but the ending, well, I think I knew what happened, but it did kind of leave some things up to questioning. Were there other cuts of the ending that maybe had like a more overt closure ending, or was it, do you always want to kind of leave it as maybe kind of a question of what actually happened?
I think I hoped to leave it as a question, but there was definitely a possibility, and there was one version where there was a much more definite ending. But I always remember the end of The Exorcist, which is one of my favorite films. I just, it's an extraordinary film, and it's known for this kind of really shocking material, but actually it's an incredible character study. All these characters, Regan, her mother, the priest, his feelings of guilt over his own mother, abandoning his own mother, but it's got a very, very definite ending, a very, very final ending. And actually, that kind of disappointed me, because it brings closure, but it ends on a very, look, those are the stairs, and that's it, that's where he went, and he died. And
spoilers.
Yeah, credits. And I felt all the energy dropped out of it. All this incredible energy that it created, and I just wanted to keep that energy. I'm really sorry. That's my dog. I really wanted to keep the energy sort of there in the closing moments, and the energy to sort of diffuse through the music. So there was definitely a more, let's say, a bleaker, more final, more. My dog.
The very dog friendly, channel, so it's perfectly fine.
But we felt, especially again, just to keep that energy, and because so much of it is about subconscious, and we just wanted to have a note of openness or hope, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And funny you should mention The Exorcist, because I live near Washington, D.C., and the Exorcist steps are, in downtown Washington, D.C. I drive by them, regularly. So come visit. Yeah. They just look like normal steps. They're not haunted, I think, but I really haven't been there around night, so I'm not sure, but they seem like normal steps.
They're so narrow and they're so steep.
Exactly.
And I can imagine looking at them must be quite intimidating.
It is, except you can now see around it where there's like a gas station next to them and things like that. So.
Right. But are they right next to the house? Did they cheat that?
They are right next to a house. I'm not sure if it's the same house, but there is very narrow. There's like a house, and on the other side is just a wall, essentially like a retaining wall.
Right. And it goes down to the river, is that right?
It goes down to a freeway, which then if you follow that down further, you can get to a canal, essentially.
Oh, a canal, okay.
Yep. So I know we have limited time, so I'm going to switch. I call it the lightning round. It's just very short, lightweight questions about the film. I want to see how your experiences match the things that happen in the film. You can feel free not to answer them, but I try to keep them very answerable. The first question is, do you have a cherished like family heirloom, like the necklace in this film?
Gosh, I don't have a necklace. I have a few items from my mother that are very important. I have a couple of little porcelain figures that she had growing up, which are sort of 18th century figures. Oh, and wow. I found one that was headless under the sofa, and I kidnapped them from the house and restored them. So I guess they're important because they come from my mother's family, and she died when I was young.
And that leads right into my next question, which is, what is the strangest thing you found around your house? I think a headless 18th century porcelain statue would be probably one of the strange. I hope that's the strangest. I don't know. Maybe your house has a lot of
I found the head. I found the headless figurine. I mean, my mum grew up in a vicarage as well, so they didn't. It was a church-owned house. They didn't own it, but somehow they had these figurines in their possession from their family. And because we didn't have many things that were valuable in our house, but she didn't look after them. She didn't see any sort of significance, even emotional significance to them. So luckily I found the head as well. So I managed to stick that. I got a restorer, a restorer, what do you call them, those people?
Restore works. Yeah, that works.
Stick the head back on the figurine. And they're lovers. They're a pair of lovers writing letters. They're called Mycin figurines. And they're very beautiful. I mean, they're all chipped and they're all messed up. The lady's got little lace in her hair, which is basically lace dipped in bone china or porcelain, whatever it is, but it's all got holes in it. But they still mean a lot to me.
I think that's called they're loved, not chipped. Yeah, they're right? Loved and worn.
Yeah, there's big chips on them.
Yeah. Have you ever climbed in or out of a bedroom window?
I had this dream when I was a child that so again, I lived in this house. It wasn't ours, but it was falling apart. It was a big house, and I had a bedroom window with a cherry tree outside. And I had this dream that a little girl would climb up the cherry tree and knock on the window and come in. So I think I did try and get out of that window to see if it was technically possible to get into the tree at one point. Luckily, I didn't fall. But yeah, so I kind of did a halfway, getting out of the window, getting into the tree, and then making it back in.
This sounds like a very personal relationship with the film. It sounds like something that could have happened.
Yeah, but my little girl was slightly different. Yeah, she was slightly different. I mean, obviously that might have inspired the story.
Yeah, definitely. Have you ever had a rabbit?
I had lots of rabbits. Yeah, I kind of adopted rabbits, and I won't let my children have a rabbit because the remembering having to clean these rabbit hutches like every week was quite traumatic. But yeah, we had lots of animals growing up.
I also had 2 rabbits, so seeing the rabbit was a soft spot for me when I saw the film. So
oh, good. Yeah, we had a great rabbit.
Yeah. And I guess the last question is, can you tell me 2 truths and a lie?
Oh, that's you can't. I have to think about these things. I haven't got them pre-prepared.
Lightning round.
Oh no! Oh wow! What am I supposed to do now? I should have saved the whole tree climbing incident for that.
Oh, that would have been a good one. Yeah.
This is not fair. 2 truths and 1 lie. It's not even 2 lies and 1 truth, but I did that in the film. You've got to give me time to think about this.
Okay, all right. We'll go the other, noticeable question. Can you tell me something to cheer me up?
To cheer you up?
Yeah, I think
children are our future. Children have a better grip on this planet than we do, and they're going to change everything for the better.
They kind of have to, right? They kind of have to have a better grip on this planet than we do. But
they have to. They can't get it more wrong, can they?
I hope not.
I don't think they will. I have faith.
Yeah, hopefully. All right, so the film comes out on Shudder September 9th, 2021. You're promoting it now. After the film's out, do you have other projects that you're kicking around, other, directing or acting projects that people can look for? I'm never going to act again. I don't want to act again, but I'm writing and I'm hopefully very, very much hoping that I'll make a movie in the next couple of years. So I'm writing and trying to make sure the next thing I make is going to be a good thing, hopefully. I mean, you just made a good thing, so I'm excited to see what comes next. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining me. This is Ruth Platt, the writer and director of Martyrs Lane, which comes to Shudder on September 9th, 2021.
Thank you, David.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was Ruth Platt, the writer and director of Martyrs Lane, which is coming to Shudder on September 9th, 2021. It's an atmospheric horror film that's a lot more subtle and deals with family, grief, and religion. It's a very interesting film, and I definitely think you should check it out. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot and make sure all my new content comes straight to you. Thank you.